Kemi Badenoch has caused a bit of a row. She says that if people have children, then they should both be made to look after them, and that her party previously stigmatised, wrongly, single mothers, rather than focusing on the absent fathers.
So, do both parents need to be involved in the raising of a child? We're joined by Atta Jewell and David Lewis. Both grew up in single-parent households. David now parents with his wife. Atta, would you describe yourself as predominantly single parent?
Yes, I have to say that my children's father is present, but I called time on my 26-year relationship and marriage last year. This has really triggered and irritated me so much because, as you know, I grew up in a single family, parent family. I now am a single mother and probably should have left my marriage years ago, but because of the stigma, that John Major's back to basics stigma, I stayed in something that I probably shouldn't have stayed in, and it's about happy children.
But she's not saying people should stick together. What she's saying is that fathers should be present. Now, you can be separated and divorced and still have a very present father in your life. That's reasonable, isn't it?
I think it's about what is best for the children. And I don't necessarily think if a father is abusive or is toxic, that they should be involved. I think financially, always pay for your children, be there. But I think for me, I know that I wouldn't be the person I am today if I wasn't removed from having a very close relationship with my father. I think I was rescued from being infected by quite a toxic parent.
That's interesting.
So I think it's about happy, confident children. And I think we need to remove this Victorian stigma. I didn't want to be labelled a single mother. I didn't want to be labelled a black single mother, if I'm going to be really honest, because of still the stigma there is. But I have never been more present, happy, and my children are an example of why you should be a single parent. Is much better than an unhappy two-parent
Can I put a hypothetical question to you then? In an ideal world, if you actually had a happy marriage, a good man by your side, do you think that would be better than being a successful single mother?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm half Nigerian, I'm half Trinidadian. The community, it takes a village to raise a child. I know millions of women and men who are in two-parent teams who they are doing the heavy lifting. How many of these parents are sewing in labels in school uniforms? How many of them are doing PE kits? How many of them are up at 2 o'clock in the morning looking at Halloween outfits? I got your Halloween outfits, girls, don't worry. I mean, it's just because you're in a two-parent team doesn't mean that it is an equal load. The mental load, we know, is often put on one of the parents, often the mum.
David Lewis, when you heard what Kemi Badenoch had said, that there needs to be more discussion about how parenting is a two-person job, and the point I think Kemi Badenoch is making is precisely not to stigmatise single mums, but actually to stigmatise absent dads. That's sort of her point. What did you think?
Well, first of all, it's a strange position before 8:30 to be here defending Kemi Badenoch's position. I'll tell you that for free. That's not something I was expecting. But saying that, I think there is something potentially in what she's saying. It sounds like Atta as well. We're brought up by single mothers ourselves. Now I'm in a two-person relationship with my girlfriend. Thank you for introducing her as my wife, which is going to be a complicated conversation when we get home now. So thank you very much. All the things to say. Ask me anything. Don't say that. Yeah, so I'm now in relationship for a long time with my partner, and I find in my experience that there is something, an extra dimension to the parenting that we can give the kids that perhaps is not possible in my own experience.
So what did you miss out on then, as you were growing up without having a dad around?
Well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, if you don't have the fatherly... In my experience, my mum did an amazing job, don't get me wrong, an incredible job under very, very difficult circumstances, right? But saying that, there was an extra dimension of parenting we didn't have. The father figure who would look up to in a sort of paternal way, the masculine figure in our family, a male role model, exactly. And that was sort of lacking. I've had to find it in different ways. I've had to work out how to get there in my own time, and I've made it, and it's, you know, it's fine. But I would say the ideal would be to have that, in my experience, would be. I've seen it from both ends of the telescope, and I think that probably, for me, is. I mean,
have you had moments as a father, a present father, when you thought to yourself after something's happened, maybe a conversation, you've had to negotiate through a row of some kind, and you thought, I wish I'd had that?
A lot. I mean, often. That's a lot of how it is would be like that. I mean, a lot of it is sort of reaching out to try and find, you know, having a kid in a strange way, not to make it too profound so early on. You sort of understand your own father better by having that, but it goes down a generation rather than looking up. So I've had to become that person. So yes, would I like to have had that? Absolutely, I would. But I didn't. I've made it work. But I'm conscious now that I want my child, 2 children, to have that experience that I didn't necessarily have, right?
I wonder, Atta, if you think that Kemi Badenoch was taking a swipe at the veteran Tory MP, Sir Christopher Chope, who said just a couple of days before this interview that Kemi Badenoch might struggle to be party leader because she is preoccupied with her children. And it was almost as if, well, she's a woman with children, she's going to be looking after them. And I don't blame Kemi Badenoch for almost feeling, hang on, why is it just my job?
I know.
Actually, you know, in her relationship, she says her husband picks up all those pieces when she's working. Hamish is, you know, he's the person doing what Christopher Chope might, not in her words, what Christopher Chope might see as the mum's work.
I mean, in my opinion, it's so misogynistic, and I can see why she'd want to clap back in that way. No one asked Boris Johnson, are you comfortable to be Prime Minister with your 25,000 children, allegedly? No one has asked anyone, do you feel comfortable being CEO of a company because you're a dad? So I completely understand the sort of double-edged, two-sided unfairness of that question. But at the same time, why are we going there? You know, I have twin daughters who are 13. I went back to work after 2 weeks. That's another conversation because I had my own production company. I was freelance. There was no money knocking around. You just crack on and get on with it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just think it's very interesting what she says because she specifically, to your point about the Tory party focusing on sort of the single mums, she says, I think we ran into trouble decades ago when we were very critical of single parenthood. It sounded as if we were always talking about single mums. Where are the dads? Why are the dads not there? Why are they not looking after their families? It sounds to me like she wants to redress the balance in the whole conversation. She's saying, as a working mum, that it's not always about the mum. Don't always lay it on the mum.
Look, I couldn't agree more. I can only speak for experience in my family is that the parenting is very much co-parented. I don't even have a job during the day, so I work a lot in the evening. So I'm there hands-on doing it all the time, and I think it does make the difference, you know. I think what better way to be told off for playing Peppa Pig too loud on the iPad in the pub garden by one parent, have it done by 2 parents. We find to be the best thing. But
can I just say, when somebody says something like this, we all get showered with statistics, and a lot of them we can disregard. But here's what I do think is interesting. I'd like to know your take on it. It's been shown that actually most men who are in prison, as we speak, right now in this country, did not have a present father when they were growing up. That's a fact. What do you make of that?
I think it's such a nuanced position. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about all these different things. We're talking about education. A lot of people maybe didn't have the therapy and the help they needed and support. There's also sexual abuse. It's a very nuanced thing. It's not just about absentee fathers.
Well, one of the theories about it is that actually these young men without a role model, they tend to drift into gang culture because that does offer them the kind of the male hierarchy that they're missing at home.
I mean, I couldn't necessarily comment on that. I would say that there is plenty of dysfunction from people with both parents around and both parents together. You know, I've been on the comedy circuit long enough, God love it. Some of the dysfunction I hear, it doesn't make any difference. You can be equally open to sort of that level of dysfunction
and
from either parent.
susceptible to coercive behaviour. I mean, so many people, you know, have said that, you know, since I have left my marriage, I'm financially, physically, emotionally better and healed, and that is better for my children to have a happy, vibrant mum. Anyone who's seen my Instagram has seen I've been dancing, I am joyful. I've dropped 4 stone this year. In my marriage, I piled on 11 stone and gave myself type 2 diabetes. I think being
I've never eaten so much Haribo in my life.
I mean,
as I have becoming a new
the
parent.
sugar does keep you going when you're in it. You've got young kids, mine are 13. But it's about being happy and healthy and being a good example. And that's whether you're a single parent, if you're in 2.4 parent team, it's about being a good example to your kids.
Well, wish your twins a happy Halloween from us.
Oh, thank you.
And we look forward to seeing the costumes.